Cheerio, bonjour. I apologize for being late for a while. Regardless. So, if you're watching me still, 8 seconds in, go to the comments and tell Maria hello, because Maria is a very good friend of mine who watches my channel, and she's very much been supportive. However, I want to talk about the Menendez. And yes, I'm in this fancy little dress. We're going to some party tonight. We went to a party last night also. I'm almost getting partied out. Regardless. So today is what? Oh my goodness, I don't have my watch on yet. July 9th? I have no idea. July 9th? July 10th? No, July 9th. Okay. Oh my goodness, I have dog or cat hair right in my nose, and it messes with me. The boy has to feed the animals during the summertime, and they were not fed until 11 a.m. this morning. And so I had Floyd, he's the tuxedo, messing with me. I mean, digging on my face. He's biting on my chin. He's like, Mommy, I want food. So anyway, Menendez brothers. So call me Nostradamus, but I believe both of these men within 2 years will be released. And I actually think it'll be a little less. Leslie Van Houten, not really sure how to say her last name. She was part of the cult family, the Manson family. She's been in prison since 1969. And I think she should have been released by 1973. And most of you all probably weren't even born when that happened. But she was in a cult. She was brainwashed. Similar to, what's it called? Scientology. But she will be released within the next 10 days. And I 100% support that. I didn't really understand why Gavin Newsom was, or the previous governor, Jerry Brown, were denying this. This woman has never had one single negative report in prison. And like I just said, within 3 years, away from Charles Manson, no Alva arms, she realized she was messed up and simply brainwashed. Okay. The Menendez. Yeah, I'm going to have to use a tissue through this, and normal creators would just edit that out, but I'm not normal. Again, I assume most of you are much younger than I am. I look at the analytics and stuff. This crime happened, I'm going to think 1989. I made a ton of notes, and then the boy put his camping list on the back of my notes, and he used a Sharpie. Oh, that almost looked like Al Arms. And I couldn't read what he said. But, okay. Betty Broderick murdered her ex-husband and his new wife in November 1989. This happened right about the same time. And that is what got me into true crime. Sorry, so look, I'm all beat up. You see that? I mean, I could move my computer. Do you see my legs? The man made a go-kart, and I've been hot rodding all over the neighborhood. I mean, I have skid marks, not in your underwear skid marks, all over my legs, everything. I mean, I hurt myself, but I was hot rodding. Anyway, so this was my very first entree into true crime, which Betty Broderick and the Menendez brothers. The Menendez brothers had 2 trials. They were not convicted until 1996. So, it took 7 years. They had one trial. It was a what's it called? You know what I'm talking about. Goodness. This was a big deal. And I watched it, and I watched the first trial, and I watched the second trial, and I thought, these 2 dudes were so much full of poop. It was pathetic. These were two kids who had an Amex Platinum with unlimited spending. They could have anything they wanted. Pardon my French, or my English. Almost embarrassing how much money these kids had to spend. I was quite spoiled as well. I received a car on my 16th birthday. I didn't have to go to school that day. But when I was in college, my parents sent me $50 every week. And in 1988, 89 to 92, $50 was a lot of money. I also had the little food card for Ohio State. And you could use that at around 4 7-Elevens. They weren't 7-Elevens. Around campus. Oscar. I'm sorry. He doesn't understand. My life was fine. You know, I had a gas card also. And there were times that I would fill my friends' cars up with gas and make them give me cash. So one time my father wrote me a letter, and he said, "You live 0.4 miles away from campus. 0.7 mile, it's cat hair, 7 miles away from church. The Kroger is 0.3 miles. So how did you go through 4 tanks of gas last week?" My father never called me. He always just wrote me letters. And so I fixed it right away. I stopped filling my friends' cars up with my father's gas card. Okay, the point is, these guys were spoiled rotten. So I'm watching this trial, 1989 to 1996. And I thought, entitled little brats. But it turns out, maybe they were telling the truth. Say hi to our girl. We brought her back. The kids' claim was that the father was abusing them. Okay. Lyle. Okay, the parents purposely gave the children American English names. The father did not like the Menendez thing. He did not like that his name was Jose. And oh my goodness, I'm sorry. I have so much cat hair in my nose. It's bothering me. But he purposely gave them American names. So he started abusing Lyle, the older child, who was born 2 years prior to me. And part of the deal was, you don't tell anyone. And then he started abusing Eric a few years later. And from what I have found out, the abuse started when these boys were around 7 to 10 years old. Dad got cat hair. Dad got tired of Lyle, the older one, and so he moved on to Eric. And he told Lyle, if you ever say a word to Eric about this, I'm not sure if he actually said the words, I'll kill you. But I know for a fact that if he told Eric, if you tell Lyle I'm doing this to you, I will have you murdered. Okay. So everyone went, oh, no. These are 2 spoiled rich kids. It was a Sunday evening, and the boys, I'm sorry, I have so much cat hair in my nose. Why the hell do we even own cats? And they're nothing but a nuisance. And I love both my cats, but goodness, it's coming out my nose. It was a Sunday evening, and the boys told Mom and Dad, we're going to a movie. So Mom and Dad went inside their big luxury home, who Elton John had priorly lived in. And I mean, this is a 9,000 square foot house. It's a nice house. It's got a huge swimming pool. Here, I have a nice swimming pool. You can see it over there. There's my swimming pool. My swimming pool is not as nice as theirs is. But they had a pool house behind, and I'm sorry, it's the cat hair. Lyle lived in the pool house, so he's got his own little luxury accommodations. So Eric finally tells Lyle, hey, this is what Dad's doing to me. And look, I've never been abused that way. The worst thing my family did to me was call me buffalo butt and thunder thighs. Zero physical abuse, unless you call chores physical abuse. My mother didn't even make us make our bed. If we got in trouble, my mother would make us make our bed and then get in it. And that was the big punishment. I'm not going to say her name, but my good girlfriend went through real physical abuse. So I don't truly understand it. But about 3 weeks before this all happened, Eric, the younger one, went to Lyle and said, Dad's putting his pee-pee in my butt. Dad's making me lick his pee-pee. And oh my goodness, I sure hope this video doesn't get blocked for that. And they started talking. So it's a Sunday night, like I just said. The boys say, Mom, Dad, we're headed to a movie. We'll see you later. And they leave. They purchased tickets. The movie was Batman. They had a week prior gone down to San Diego. Remember, they lived in Bel Air. And they had purchased shotguns because even way back then, California was crazy about guns. You guys know, I carry a 9mm everywhere I go. I mean, I carry a SIG with me everywhere. I'm not allowed to carry it on my mail route, but I went to the store today, and my little SIG was in my purse. So even at that point, 1989, California was that weird about guns. They used a fake ID. One of the brothers had found a friend who looked similar to him, and he had stolen his ID. So they went and purchased these shotguns. And I mean, these are buckshots. Most of my viewers are women. A buckshot is a tube that has, I don't have any idea, hundreds of little teeny pellets. And you fire it, and the pellets shred. Okay, well, if I hit you with my SIG, I only need one shot. But if I hit you with my buckshot, I may need 2 or 3. And yes, I have murdered animals with a buckshot. I went bird shooting one time, and I shot a Hungarian partridge, and the dog ran and grabbed it, and then he ran it right back to me. And the rest of the people in my group they said, well, you have a little zipper in your back pocket. Unzip it, and you stick that bird in there. So then I had to walk around for another 3 hours with this dead animal on my back, and that sort of creeped me out a bit, but that's part of hunting. The parents thought they were at the movie. They went in, and they slaughtered the parents. I mean, slaughtered. They murdered Dad very, very quickly. But Mom probably took a few minutes. Her death shot was a shot right here, and they have proven that the shotgun was sitting on her face. And they can tell that from the residue and stuff. But that's hate. That's hate. And I'm sitting there years ago thinking, what is wrong with these two kids? What, Dad didn't give them more credit on their credit card, and so they're killing people? However, things have changed. 1989. So it's been 34 years? Wow. Things have changed. And I don't mean political dynamics or, it's pretty much legal. You can steal anything in California up to $999. I don't mean that way. I mean, different evidence has now come out. So about 6 months prior to the murder, Eric, the younger one, had written his cousin a letter, and it said, "It's still happening with Dad. He's getting so fat, it's making me sick to see him naked." And that's a quote. And then, I'm sorry, I've lost track because I'm overwhelmed. So 4 or 5 years ago, this cousin unfortunately dies. I mean, this cousin's young, obviously younger than me. And the mother is going through the cousin's belongings and fine. Sorry, I have a cat hair hanging from my light and it's frustrating me. Shocker, a cat hair. And the mother's going through the belongings of this now deceased child, and she finds this letter. And there's actually 2 letters, a few months apart, that said the identical thing. Okay, well, again, most of you are young. Well, in 1989, if you wanted to communicate with someone, you either picked up the telephone or you wrote a letter. We didn't have email, we didn't have text messages. Well, this woman brought this stuff directly to the court, and the court poo-pooed it. Now, another thing on a side note, and I will not get political, but the court is the Ninth Circuit of Appeals, and they are the most liberal court on the planet. You're not going to get real justice from the Ninth Circuit. So they ignored it. And then, about 2 months ago, she found something else. And she went to a man named Mark Garagos. He's an attorney. You guys may have heard of him. He represented Scott Peterson. He was on the original Michael Jackson trial team. And he ended up resigning. And I think part of the reason he resigned was because he knew MJ was guilty. Another dude who was on that team, what's his name? He's got long white hair. Hey Siri, who is Danny Masterson's attorney? This dude was just found guilty of hiding evidence or giving evidence to Scientology. And yes, I want to say his name. Danny Masterson, attorney. I'm going to do a video about Masterson because he's a creep. Oh, Tom Mesereau. It's a dude, he's got very, very white hair, and it goes to right about here, and it's cut flat. And I wonder why his wife has not made him fix that, because he looks like an idiot. But these attorneys knew all about this, and they hid it. But what's more important, the prosecution knew all about this, and they also hid it. But then, you have a trial. At the very end, you have your closing arguments. And the prosecution in the closing arguments brought up the claims of sexual abuse, which have been proven non-existent. However, the prosecutor knew about all the claims. So it's really not fair that the judge allowed that man to say that. Okay, so now fast forward. It's come out. Again, within 2 years they'll be out. Leslie Van Houten, she's going to get out, and she absolutely should. She was in a cult, the Manson cult, and she's never had even one disciplinary write-up, even one. But apparently, from what I understand, within about 4 months of being separated from Manson, after she carved the little swastika into her head, she went, what the hell? What was I doing? And this was a little girl. I think she was homecoming queen, and she was raised in a nice middle-class family. She just happened to, she went to, what's it called? Haley and Cole. There's an intersection in San Francisco. she hooked up with Manson. But she's being released in about 10 days, and I 100% support that. And I believe she should have been released 30 years ago. And she immediately realized she messed up. Here's the one thing about these two boys. I don't know why I'm calling them boys. They're men now. Okay, I'm 52. So Lyle's 54, and Eric's 52. They should be released. And they absolutely will be released. Part of their guilty verdict, they had 2 trials. The first trial, okay, they also had each individual juries. They did the case, both of the boys. I don't know why I'm calling them boys. That was something Leslie, whatever her name, that was the first attorney. She had crazy blonde hair. She allowed that. I didn't really understand that. But both men sat at their tables, and then they had 2 juries. Can you even imagine if one jury had found Eric guilty and Lyle not guilty, or vice versa? I mean, what hell would have broken loose at that point? I'm sorry, guys. It's cat hair. But when the judge sentenced them, and this is a judge who knew there was evidence of sexual abuse, he did not allow that evidence to come into trial. However, he allowed the prosecutor to say, and these guys claim their sexual abuse, and there's no evidence of it, which completely wrong. Part of the deal of their sentencing, so they wouldn't get the death penalty, was that they never be together or never be housed together in the same prison. Well, I really don't know why. I probably could have figured it out. In 2018, they were finally moved together. They share a cell now. They're in a medium security prison. And just like Leslie Van Houten or Houten, they really haven't had any problems. They're not getting busted for selling drugs or doing tattoos. But in 2018, they were finally allowed to live together. And I looked it up an hour ago. They still share a cell. So can you imagine being sentenced to life in prison? At least you get hooked up with some family. So there's some good things. Look at that. That's another go-kart bruise. I got my butt beat up by this stupid go-kart. I could show you my legs. And my legs are destroyed from this thing. I was hot rodding. Anyway. However, and both boys have been married. I think Eric is still married. Lyle's had a divorce or 2. Maybe the other way around. They have always maintained their innocence. And when I say that, they say, we killed our father, our parents. But we killed them because they were committing SA against us. Their story has never, ever changed. And then, at the beginning of this year, Netflix, which I don't subscribe to, once they handed Prince Harry and the twit $100 million, I think very shortly. Actually, we probably unsubscribed to Netflix when they did that little SEX show about children. I don't remember what it was called, but so I haven't seen Netflix. However, in 2023, Netflix did a documentary about Menudo. Again, I see my analytics. Most of you probably do not know who Menudo is. But, they were a boy band. And they were very hot in the late 80s. Well, the main singer, Roy something, holds up a photo, and this is just the menu, but it has a picture of the whole Menudo, and it had each producer on each side. And so this is Mr. Menendez, Jose, and he points right at him, and he said, This man raped me when I was 14. So, RCA Records is trying to sign Menudo. And so Jose Menendez invites the band to the house, or at least the main members. And apparently he Bill Cosby'd or Danny Masterson them. And he RAPED that kid, 14 years old. About a month after that documentary, another kid from Menudo came out and said he did the exact same thing to me. So it turns out maybe Eric and Lyle were telling the truth. Okay, so you sit here and you say, just because your dad did this to you does not give you the right to murder him. And man, I understand. But again, I've never been in that position. I've never been physically abused by my parents. And if you're not in that situation, you can't really understand what it means. But because of this revelation, Mark Garagos, I already told you, Representative Scott Peterson, went pro bono, but I guarantee he's getting paid somehow. And he's now representing them. I think their convictions will be thrown out, and I do not think there will be a new trial. The DA in LA County, his name is George Gascos or something like that. But he lets everyone go. Oh, it was a little murder, no big deal. Now, if you're white and you murder someone, it's a little bit different circumstances. But what's his name? Oh, it's bothering me. I don't think he's even going to pursue more charges. They're going to let these guys go. There's a deal with, had Jose, you have to be really careful about how I speak, been performing the act, and one of them, turned around and punched him, and the way it hit his head and he died, you'd probably have much more easier chance of being acquitted. I almost said getting off. But the thing is, and there's a legal term, and I apologize. I didn't write it. I told you, I wrote great notes, and then the kid wrote Sharpie on the back of my paper. But there's also a legal term that these kids feared, and yes, I'm calling them kids. They were, like I said, I don't remember, 17 and 19 or 18 and 20. And the older kid was a piece of junk. He was enrolled at Princeton and lying to his parents. He was cheating. His father had to fly out to New Jersey because the kid had, that looked a little Alba. The kid had plagiarized something, and the father simply gave a donation, and Princeton said, okay, well, he'll take the next semester off and he'll be back in the spring. Well, that's how rich people work, I guess. And so it was during that fall that this happened. The older kid wasn't maybe very honest. However, he still did not deserve to be SA'd. These kids are going to get out. I'm going to find a way to let us all write letters. Can you even imagine your parent doing that to you? I'm not going to lie. I already said, I watched this, and I thought, 2 entitled rich kids. They were telling the truth. And they were absolutely telling the truth. Okay, if you're still watching right now, you know how I feel. I'm shocked. Thank you, I'm humbled. Hit like, hit subscribe, and God bless you. And please, God bless this America. Bye-bye. Oh, look at that. It didn't turn off. I'll see you soon.